Welcome to another Wellness Wednesday. I'm Dr. Court, and we're going to get started. I always love having you present with me. So thanks for joining. So tonight, we are going to talk about mindfulness. Now, this came from a recent study that I read that talked about mindfulness and helping children focus in school or focus on the field or in dance class or whatever. And so I got really curious about it. I decided to look into this more because I know there are some parents out there that really struggle with getting their kids to focus. I am with you. And I thought, wow, well, if I could employ some mindfulness techniques to help my child focus better, that might be a huge win. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Up first, I wanted to be able to show you all a video that we have related to mindfulness. I thought it would be a nice way to start, to be able to have that someone else talk about it at first, and then have you all come back and we'll talk about it after the video. So let me share that.
You may have heard this word mindfulness. It's become something of a buzz phrase of late. I'm going to give you one simple, serviceable definition, which is this. Mindfulness is the ability to know what's happening in your head at any given moment without getting carried away by it. Imagine how useful this could be. Just as an example, you're driving down the road and somebody cuts you off in traffic. How do you normally react? I think most of us, we normally react by having a thought, which is, I'm pissed. And then what happens next? You immediately, habitually, reflexively inhabit that thought. You actually become pissed. There's no buffer between the stimulus and your reaction. With just a little bit of mindfulness, in that same situation, you might notice my chest is buzzing, my ears are turning red, I'm having a starburst of self-righteous thoughts, I'm getting angry. But you don't necessarily have to act on it and chase that person down the road, screaming at them with your kids in the back of the car thinking you've gone nuts. Now, you might be thinking, don't I need to get angry sometimes? Aren't I justified? I would say yes, but probably not as much as you think. The proposition here is not that you should be rendered by mindfulness into some lifeless, non-judgmental blob. The proposition is that you should learn how to respond wisely to things that happen to you rather than just reacting blindly. And that, my friends, is a superpower. How do you get it? The way to get it is through meditation. I believe that meditation and mindfulness are the next big public health revolution. In the 1940s, if you told somebody you were going running, they would have said, who's chasing you? But then what happened next? The scientists swooped in, they showed that physical exercise is really good for you, and now all of us do it, and if we don't, we feel guilty about it. And that's where I think we're headed with mindfulness and meditation. It's going to join the pantheon of no-brainers like brushing your teeth, eating well, and taking the meds your doctor prescribed for you. Let me just close by saying, mindfulness is not going to solve all of your problems. It's not going to render your life a nonstop parade of unicorns and rainbows. Nonetheless, this is a superpower and one that is accessible by you immediately.
Okay, I hope that was helpful to everyone. I thought that was a really good introduction to mindfulness. So we're going to move on with our presentation and go over for a second what they were talking about there in the aspect of, hey, I'm I'm trying to be mindful, right? So what in that they were talking about was the fact that in mindfulness, oh goodness, is that you build up awareness, right? And so within that sense of awareness, you then are able to, when you can slow yourself down and recognize certain signals, body sensations, you can recognize uh, heat or cold, you can recognize maybe some thoughts that are coming up for you, right? So suddenly you're very, very aware of the different things that are going on in your head. Then that allows you to plug in to slowing your mind down. Okay. So mindfulness is nothing new. This is something that originated in Buddhism about 2,500 years ago. This tradition is much wider and broader than the traditional religious beliefs of Buddhism and has extended to all aspects. Christianity has prayer, and there are aspects of prayer that are very mindful. Some of these behaviors and beliefs are referred to as a psychological process or a skill developed over time, right? So mindfulness has been studied many places. In particular, Penn State studied mindfulness for years. And in that university setting, they developed programs and workshops, mostly around meditation. And there are different types of meditation, and we're going to go over some of those. What they found is that mindfulness could really be developed through meditation, that act of slowing ourselves down and paying attention to all that sensory information that we normally ignore, that's normally unconscious. So, what does mindfulness entail? Well, if you're constantly aware of all of your surroundings, all your stimuli, your brain would overload. It would be too much. So, among other parts of the brain, our reticular formation, our activating reticular formation, filters out things we need to pay attention to and things we don't. You can thank your reticular formation because it's a big reason why we're able to fall asleep at night. And the nights you can't fall asleep are the nights when you hear the clock ticking, you hear the frogs and the crickets outside chirping, you hear every creak in your house, right? Those are the nights you can't fall asleep. Usually, those get filtered out. You don't even hear them because you don't need to. And you might notice when something inside the house changes. So for me, when my husband goes on a work trip and I'm at home alone with the kids, I don't sleep nearly as well. Why? Because now I know I am solely responsible for anything that might happen in the house. Even though my husband could probably sleep through a bomb going off in the house, for some reason, him being in the house allows me to sleep better, even though I'm still going to be the only one waking up if something happens. Anyway, but that's mindfulness. You can see it in animals, and I have a great little picture of a prairie dog here. Often in group animal settings, you'll see it in geese as well. There are one or two animals that are on watch, constantly aware, constantly vigilant, while everyone else does what they need to do. They're eating, sleeping, tending to the young, whatever it may be. That animal that's being vigilant is the mindful one. So this aspect allows you to be aware, and it's not just of external things, it's also of internal things. It allows you to be aware of what are the thoughts going through your head? What are the emotions that are coming up for you? What are the sensations that your body's feeling right now? And when you're really aware, you can then apply logic and order to all those sensations that you're now aware of and have slow conscious thought, which is what mindfulness is. So mindfulness is being aware of each moment that passes while being fully present of our thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, and our surrounding environment. Meditation is used as a mindfulness technique to help us achieve this optimal state of awareness, which you can improve on your own, and you can improve through learning it and practice. And that meditation practice will improve your concentration and reduce your stress. Mindfulness also incorporates acceptance in everyday situations. This means you're not as likely to judge others or other actions, just like in the video, right? Someone cuts you off. You don't jump to, wow, that person must be a jerk or they must be a terrible driver. Maybe they're rushing to the hospital. Who knows what they're rushing to? But you're able to slow down and not quickly go to judgment. As I mentioned earlier, this act of mindfulness keeps us in the moment and it allows us to stabilize our emotions, especially the intense ones like anger, fear, and sadness. So let's talk a little bit more about mindfulness. Or a little bit more about meditation, I should say. So researchers have found that meditation helps to counter habituation. So an example of habituation, ever been in the car, a long car ride, you hear a song you like, you turn it up, keep driving, and then you hear another song you like, you turn it up. Then you're driving through a particularly noisy area and there's a song on that you like, so you turn it up a little bit more because you can't really hear the song. Finally get to your destination, you turn off your car, you go do what you need to do, you get back in your car, you turn on the car, and the radio is blasting. Did the volume suddenly go up while you were out? No. What happened is your brain used habituation to get used to the volume, which is why you had to keep turning it up. So, in the act of mindfulness, we counter that habituation in that we continue to pay attention to the sensory information around us at where it is. Okay, so in habituation, it's the tendency to stop paying attention to new information in our environment. And then if we counter that, we continue to pay attention to it. Other studies have found that mindfulness meditation can reduce mind wandering, which is what I was talking about at the beginning, that this can help with focus and improve our ability to solve problems. So there's good news. These studies have shown that improved attention seems to last up to 5 years after mindfulness training. 5 years. How many other things have you practiced actually last that long? I can go work out and it certainly doesn't last 5 years. I can eat healthy, and I have to tell you, I wish my healthy eating habits lasted 5 years. Usually they don't. So this is pretty good, a pretty good reason to want to practice mindful meditation and practice it with your kids. So this is definitely a trait worth going into. So let's continue on. We talked about things in general that meditation can do. Now I want to talk about the impact meditation has on the brain specifically. Practicing meditation actually lessens an inflammatory response in people that are exposed to psychological stressors. When we get stressed out, our body tends to release fluid, which often contains things like white blood cells, our immune system, right? Because it wants to fight the threat. Well, if the threat is psychological, the immune system is not going to be able to help us much, but we still might have that response. It's often why part of losing weight nowadays with holistic, fitness teachers will spend time breathing, doing box breathing, bringing your nervous system down, because reducing your stress allows you to reduce your cortisol levels, which allows your body to feel like, okay, I can release these food stores because I'm not in a threatful situation. I can release this fluid. We're not in a threatful situation. So what else? Mindfulness can dampen our activity in our amygdala, which is tied to our limbic system, which is our emotional area, right? And that's good. In teenagers, the amygdala is actually a little bit swollen. It explains a lot why your teenagers seem to overreact to everything. Well, their amygdala is swollen. And that is a huge emotional part of the brain. So to dampen that a little might be helpful. It also strengthens the connection between the amygdala and your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that's responsible for executive function, planning, logic, organization, among other things. That is a part of the body that's still developing, well for children, well through the teen years. And so for children to practice mindfulness and to practice meditation, it's going to help them to plug into this newly forming part of the brain that connection will go stronger as they grow older. So what else does meditation do? Well, while we've talked about some of the stuff it actually does with the body, we also might want to touch on compassion. When we meditate, when we focus on our senses in the moment, we often find ourselves able to be more compassionate. We can feel suffering, and we also can see others suffering better when we are in a mindful state. And it can help create an environment where we feel less paralysis or less withdrawal because of feeling overwhelmed or not able to understand what's going on in our bodies. When we're able to do that, we're able to connect with others because we have compassion, then that's going to create a safer environment too, because when we connect with others, we feel safer. There are some really good studies that have shown practicing a loving kindness meditation for others actually increases our willingness to take action to relieve suffering. And it, again, appears to reduce that amygdala response of what suffering is, right? Because everyone feels pain, but any mom who's gone through childbirth can tell you we all experience pain differently. Or if you've ever watched someone injure themselves and you're like, wow, what just happened to them looks really painful. And they don't seem to have the same response that you think you would have. That's because we all perceive pain a little differently. And if we use mindfulness, it can reduce our amygdala's response to the pain, which means we won't feel the pain as much. So it reduces suffering. Mindfulness practice seems to also activate the part of the brain involved with empathy and emotional regulation. And because of that, it can help strengthen the child-parent bond. When we practice a loving kindness meditation or a compassion meditation, we actually increase the bond between parent and child. It also reduces prejudice. Talked about it a little bit earlier. It reduces judgment, and judgment and prejudice kind of come from the same family, right? So this mindfulness reduces our unconscious bias about others because we're just staying present in the moment. We're not creating stories that may or may not exist. We're just observing what's around us as it is. It also, because of that, increases trust. So when we just see facts for what they are, we again aren't jumping to an old story that says we shouldn't trust people because people have let us down in the past. We're just observing the way it is in that moment. There have been several studies that have convincingly shown that mindfulness reduces what we call a sunk cost bias, which is our tendency to stay invested in losing propositions or losing ideas. So mindfulness can even save you money. Mindfulness seems to reduce our natural tendency to focus on negative things. There have been studies done that show general mindfulness levels, where people then look at photos that are meant to induce strong emotions, that when they look at these photos, they have a stronger positive emotion and a lessened negative emotion than those that did not practice mindfulness. So there's a lot of really positive, amazing things that can come out of a mindfulness meditation. So what are some different types of meditation? Not all mindfulness is created equal, and not all types are the best for everyone. I know the first time I tried meditation, I thought it was the worst thing ever. Couldn't do it. My mind was wandering. I was frustrated with myself. I judged myself. I would say, first, I didn't have the best teacher. One. Two, I had to learn a little bit of different ways to meditate. And now I'm able to meditate in many different ways. But at first, I had to find the one that fit me the best. It's kind of like finding, the right books that you like to read or the right exercise that you're willing to do to stay in shape. So let's walk through a few different types. There are things like guided meditation. Now, those are ones where there's a voice the entire time leading you through and telling you to do something. It might ask you to focus on, I've done a meditation that's guided. It's called a letting go exercise. And that's one where you start in your toes and you flex your toes and then you let them go. And you walk all the way up through the body. That's a great one for sleep, by the way. So that would be a guided meditation. There are silent meditations where no one says anything. Maybe there's music in the background, maybe there's not, depending on how serious the silent meditators are. But there's no talking. There's open eye meditation. Now, this for a lot of people is probably one of the most awkward. You stare into somebody else's eyes and you hold that eye contact for what seems like an eternity. And it often feels uncomfortable because we're not used to holding eye contact for a really extended period of time. However, when you do that, and what study has shown with open eye meditation is our pupils will actually dilate when we hold a glance with someone for an extended period of time. And with couples that are struggling, it's actually increased a feeling of love or compassion for the other person if they hold that glance for an extended period of time. So it has a really cool dynamic that's a little bit different than some other types of meditation. There are body scans. That's similar to the letting go one where you flex different parts of your body and let it go. This one, it's just bringing awareness to, your feet, bringing awareness to your legs, then your abdomen, or in whatever order. You bring awareness to different parts of your body. If you've ever gone to a yoga class, sometimes the yoga teacher will say, bring awareness to this part of your body while you're in a particular position. And that's similar to the body scan. There's a five senses activity. This one's more conscious observation. This is a great one for folks experiencing extreme anxiety or panic attacks. You ask them to use each sense and identify something. So it might be, so there's one that I'll bring up in a few minutes where they use the numbers, but what you can do is just ask someone to describe something you see, describe something you hear, describe something you feel, right? And you walk through all the senses. There's also a lifesaver activity I do with that that's great for panic attacks, where you use your five senses to connect with the lifesaver. First, you crinkle the wrapper, then you smell it, then you open it, you feel the wrapper and its smoothness, then you feel the lifesaver and how different it feels from the wrapper. You smell the lifesaver again, put the lifesaver in your mouth, use your tongue to touch the lifesaver so you can see, you roll the lifesaver around and hear how loud it is in your head. So you walk through all these different things and you're using all five senses to connect with it. And again, when you're actively using your five senses, you are back in the moment. Think about this. Think about when you do that and you get really good at bringing yourself back into the moment. That's what we do when we focus. So this really can help. A really simple one, before you eat. So if you are someone that does a prayer before you eat, that's kind of a type of mindfulness. This one can be a sense of food gratitude where you just let the food stay in front of you and you then smell the food and you allow yourself to feel, to smell the food and notice all the different, different aromas that you can sense. So that can be really powerful as well. You can also do something called conscious observation, which is a little different than a body scan. Pick an object and devote all of your attention and awareness to it. You don't study it or analyze it. You just observe it. Candle flames are really good for this. And you just observe it for what it is. It could be a candle flame, a pen, a t-shirt, doesn't matter. And in the practice of this, you just focus on it. When you start to wander away, you come back to the object. And you notice how you don't really think about the past or the future during this exercise. You're staying in the moment. Another type of mindfulness exercise could be just counting backwards, down from 10 to try to slow the mind down. It's another really great way. So let's try another type of meditation.
If it's comfortable for you, let's begin by taking a gentle deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And with that exhalation, adopting a comfortable posture of awareness, returning the breath to its natural rhythm, and allowing your attention to gently drop into this present moment. And without turning or looking around, just lightly bringing into your awareness all that's in your surrounding space. And with your next out-breath, allowing your focus to fall onto one specific object that's in your field of vision. And it's not an intense stare, so just maintaining it as a very soft focus. And this is a gentle practice, so if at any point the eyes become fatigued, allow yourself to gently close them for a moment or two, and then reopening them, nice and easy. Noticing as any thoughts come and go, and just returning the attention back to your object.
Okay, now here's one more that I thought would be good. This was the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 meditation. Again, this one can be used for someone that's feeling highly anxious or someone that is experiencing a panic attack.
Today, we'll be learning the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 skill and how it will make us more aware and present. You know those days when it all just feels like too much? Sometimes we can feel distracted, overwhelmed, or unable to focus on anything. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is an important skill to help us come back to the present and stay grounded. It will also help us build mindfulness and focus our attention. This skill gives you a chance to notice the present by focusing on the 5 senses: sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste. Every day can get better if you take time to stop, slow down, and pay attention to something of wonder around you. Things that surprise you or make you smile. There are moments of wonder every day in the world. What can you notice? Let's take a moment to find them in your world. Up next, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise. Let's practice the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 skill. I'll talk you through this exercise. Take a moment to stop, slow down, and pay attention to what's around you. Find 5 objects that you can see. These could be things like pictures or clouds. Next, listen for 4 different sounds. This could be birds chirping or traffic in the distance. I'll give you some time to listen. Now, focus on 3 body sensations. This could be the pressure of the chair against your back or the texture of the clothing you're wearing. Next, focus on 2 odors you can smell. This might be some perfume or some food cooking. If you can't smell anything, notice that. Finally, focus on one taste in your mouth. Notice how you feel after doing this exercise. Did you notice the world around you? Do you feel less overwhelmed? When you practice this skill, you feel more present and in the moment. Nice. You just
Well, I hope you enjoyed the mindfulness session today and you're walking away with some different ways to try and be mindful. That 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise can be really great if you're taking a walk in the park. So if you're taking your kids out and you're going on a hike or you're going for a walk, stopping somewhere and just connecting with your 5 senses can be really powerful. And you'll, I can almost guarantee you'll feel lighter after you finish it. It just feels so good to connect with nature in that way. So I hope you found some useful techniques. I will not see you next week. Next week, I'm going to be at the Deal Elementary Health Expo. So if you're in the Deal area, come say hi to me. If not, I will see you in a couple weeks. Be well, Bay community.